way that my voice sounds, I've been plagued with a apparently endless disease, hopefully a lot less serious than the ones that I'll be telling you about today. So let's get started. So, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 8 years old. Last year, my grandfather died of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I remember the moment that my dad brought us downstairs, me and my sisters, and sat us down in the living room, and my mom explained to us what was going on. Being 8 years old, I didn't really understand the gravity of the situation, but all I remember is this is the first time I ever saw my mom cry. Now, my mom's cancer was in beginning stages, and little did I know this at the time, I thought she was dying. But as the situation progressed, we were reaffirmed that her disease was in the earliest stages and could be easily prevented. Little did I know this was the least serious thing that my parents were worrying about at the time. They knew that she would be okay. The thing that worried them most was the bills that this would rack up with the medical insurance. So every night I would walk downstairs to see papers scattered across the dinner table and on the floor, and my parents stressed out at the dinner table arguing over how this is going to be paid off. Now, being at 8 years old, I didn't really realize what these bills meant, and I didn't understand that how much cancer costs for diagnosis and treatment. Throughout high school, I got very interested in the field of medicine, and I did more research on diseases and how much they cost and how the American medical insurance policies work, and especially with Obamacare being abolished, I began to research this even more. I'm going to list off a few statistics in order to give you the full weight of the situation. According to DrugWatch.com, the United States will spend a total of $157 billion less. So, anyway. The United States will spend $157 billion on cancer treatments in 2020. PBS completed a survey that discovered 44 million Americans do not have medical insurance, and another 38 million Americans have inadequate medical insurance. Another surprising statistic that I found that maybe some of you can relate to is almost 40% of all men and women in the United States are diagnosed with some form of cancer throughout their lives. And that statistic is from the National Institute of Health. As you may have discovered, I am here to talk about the financial burden of cancer, as it has directly affected me and millions of other Americans. The cost of cancer treatment depends on 4 different factors: the type of treatment, the length of treatment, the location of treatment, and the type of insurance that you have. For the purposes of this speech, I will focus on 2 of the most common cancers and also the ones that have affected me directly: breast cancer and pancreatic cancer. I also want to briefly dive into the idea that cancer of the same degree can affect different groups of people very differently. Breast cancer is one of the most common and dangerous forms of cancer across the globe. The average cost allowed per patient in the 24 months after index diagnosis are between $72,000 and $180,000. $72,000 is for the people with stage 0 breast cancer. That's for the people that catch it at the earliest stages possible. This would be like my mom. $180,000 is more average for the people that catch it in the late stages. Another statistic that you guys should know is the median wage in the United States is between $57,000 and $59,000. You can imagine the gravity of a cancer diagnosis on a person with a wage of $57,000, when the minimum you have to pay is $72,000. This is according to the 2016 article published by Helen Blumen, MD, in the U.S. National Library of Medicine. These costs are so great that they can only be casually incurred by the top 1% of society. For the rest of us, the cheapest diagnosis and treatment may be too costly. When I say the rest of us, I want to bring back the idea that according to the U.S. Census Bureau, most Americans make between $57,000 and $59,000. Kathleen M. Fenn completed a study that came to the conclusion that the degree to which cancer impacted finances was the greatest predictor of quality of life with the disease. Pancreatic cancer is most common among seniors ages 65 and older. This means that most people it affects are living on some amount of Social Security and their own retirement plans. The average amount spent on diagnosis and treatment for pancreatic cancer is $134,000. And as you might have been able to guess, most people in retirement do not plan to have a cancer diagnosis affect their retirement plans. And insurance only covers so much. Now that you understand the dollar amounts behind some of the most common cancers, let's quickly take a look at why the same diagnosis can affect different groups of people in dramatically different ways. For this section of my speech, I would like to continuously refer to a document, an article published by Hector E. Alcala, who wrote a very intriguing article about the effects of cancer across different ethnic groups in America. Throughout his research, Alcala observed that the same cancer diagnosis affects blacks and Latinos far more than it affects whites and Asian Americans. Due to this wage disparity within these ethnic groups in America, going back to census data, the average annual income for Hispanic and black households are between $42,000 and $40,000 respectively, while the average household income for non-Hispanic whites is $60,000 and for Asians is $74,000. This also does not account for the number of immigrants in the United States that do not have health insurance to receive any assistance at all with the diagnosis. So why did I decide to give you this speech today? It was informative, yes. I am not trying to persuade anybody to donate to a cancer fund, although this would be very kind of you. I give you this information because statistically speaking, almost everybody in this room has a family that has been touched by cancer in one way or another. I just want all of us to know the reality behind what it really costs. Thank you.